Welcome, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today. This information centre was put together to support you, the services throughout Australia, who, and pretty much all of us, are facing change. Okay, change is in the wind. It's probably something that's not new to us, those of us that have been in children's services for a while, but So that's what this is about. It's about the support project, where we're up to, what support's going to be available to you, and also looking at eligibility within the new criteria. Julia is right. I'm here on behalf of the project, so therefore I'm not a decision maker. I can't help you in those areas. Some of the questions that might come up, we might direct you back to the department, okay? They're the ones that will need to be answering specific questions about your services situations. Other questions regarding the project and how the project can support you in the lead up to the 1st of July 2015, definitely. We want to hear those questions and also suggestions. I'm not in your situation. I'm not directly working with the family daycare service at the moment. Having said that, I am understanding of the situation and the changes facing many services and the challenges that lie ahead. So, you know, definitely please be understanding that I have empathy, okay, for people's situation and services situation. The Family Daycare Services Education and Support Project is funded by the Department of Education. It is being managed by New South Wales Family Daycare in partnership with Queensland, which is a fantastic thing. New South Wales and Queensland are probably the two largest states with the most educators and services within them, and they also are both set up for training purposes as such. So hence, you know, them working on these information sessions and the documents and what's to come within the support project. Part of it will be effective family daycare business models that will be researched. Research has already begun on them, and what has happened within the project team is they've brought, or they've accessed, I suppose, experts within the area of management and business models and that. They're talking with the business enterprise centres, and I believe also the University of New South Wales have come on board to do some research into the project as we move through the next months to July next year. There will be resources developed to assist the transition, okay, to revise business models. And as I said, you'll receive the guide today, and I will talk a little bit more about more documents as such that are coming and will be released to you over some time that are now being developed. Systems will be implemented to provide individual support for services, and that's going to be a very much on a needs basis, and that will be I suppose worked out over the next months as well. New South Wales Family Daycare, well, as you'd be aware, you were advised of the changes earlier in the year. New South Wales Family Daycare only found out in July that they had got the Guernsey as such to deliver the information sessions, the workshops, put documents together and run the support project. And I can only take my hat off to the team that have been working extremely hard to get as much information they can, put it, you know, disseminate it, put it together in ways that will meet your needs as such and get it out to you in a timely manner, and they will continue to do that. So please be assured that the information that the project team gets in will be shared with you as soon as it possibly can be, okay? And we are very much dependent on the department releasing information as well. Okay, so it has to be filtered through to us to be passed on to you. The support project, you would be aware that the needs assessment came about via a survey. Is everybody aware of the project website that is now open and available to you? Okay. If not, there, later on there's a slide that actually says how you can access it, and I encourage you to do that. What they also have now within that website is an opportunity for you to put an email address forward and that, so you will be updated with newsletters and information as it comes through. So again, I would encourage you to do that. There is an understanding of the new CSP eligibility criteria, which will be part of the session today, the information session. And what I'll just explain there, and because I've been delivering these sessions only as early as last week, the sessions actually began last Tuesday. New South Wales is the first who are receiving the information sessions. What I would just like to put out to you, though, I do not know your individual circumstances, situations, and I'm assuming you don't know each other's as well. And with that, we will go through each slide as it meant to be and actually go through the eligibility criteria broken down into steps, not assuming again that everybody has access to the tools, everybody knows where they stand and all the rest of it. So if your service has gone through that process of self-assessment and feeling comfortable with the outcome, that's fine, but please be supportive of others in the room that may need to still go through that. And the other thing is that, of course, it always clarifies it in our minds that, yes, this is how it is and, we've gone through the process in the correct way. Part of the support project will be transitional tools and compliance tools, okay, and they will come about, again, via workshops, webinars, and the documents that will be put together, developed and given to you in the future. Okay, what did Family Daycare say? So, of the 60% of services that responded to the Education and Support Project survey, 85% said that they wanted information about funding changes. Okay, so information shared in a variety of different ways. Now, 60%, when you put surveys out, of course, you'd always like more as such, but 60% was actually a very, very good amount of information that came from the sector and very broadly throughout the sector. And remember, that was Australia-wide as well. The other thing, and is everybody aware that there was a survey? And I take it some of you responded, took the time to respond, and if you did, thank you. I was lucky enough, I suppose, to be privy to the information that came through the survey. And it was a fairly hefty survey. There was 20-something questions that you had to wade through. The wonderful thing about it was that a lot of respondents took the time to give specific information. And that's great because that gives us, the project team, something to work with in the future. Okay, it was quite specific about how they were feeling, where they felt they were up to, questions they may have had, things that they want answered, clarified, that type of thing. So that information will continue to be referred to over the life of the project as, again, needs assessment, taking on board what you have shared with us that you want more of. 85% wanted information to assist in determining their eligibility and how to apply for funding. That does come about within this presentation today, and like I said, it's also within the guide. It's quite easy steps within the guide. Keep in mind, this was put together, this information session and the guide were put together prior to the tools and the checklist being released by the Education Department the week before last. Okay, so since that, and thank goodness, that the information has been released, because did anybody try and work out prior to the tools and the checklist being released? Yeah, where they stood? How'd you go with that?
We worked it out.
You did?
And we spoke to the department and they couldn't work it out.
Well, there you go.
But in the end they confirmed what we thought.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was good because it was hard. It was extremely hard to decipher that information and come away feeling comfortable that you were on the right track with the outcome that you gained from it. So it's great that the department released the tools and the checklist, as I said, not last week, the week before, and what it has meant that a lot of services from that 85% probably would now be feeling like, okay, they've been able to work through and have that information. But again, we're not going to assume that everybody in the room is at that stage, so we will work through that today just to make sure there's clarity. 75% wanted written information to support their service, and that will happen. Okay, that will be, as I said, shared with you over the next X amount of months until we get to July. and July being when the project as such will finish. The New South Wales Association in partnership with Queensland, the association will finish with the project at that time, at this stage. 70% of respondents wanted face-to-face information sessions, and yes, after these information sessions that are going all around Australia, there's also the webinars that will be available too, and I think there's one, Julia's left me, but I think there's one actually later on this week. This PowerPoint presentation down the track will be available also on the website, which is just great. Can keep an eye out for it, because if you are sharing information with the stakeholders of your service, whether it be, you know, the management team, committee, the staff, the educators, families, or whatever, you will be able to use that to your purpose. Okay, so that will be available down the track as well. Following on from the information sessions will be workshops that will be also going around the country, around Australia, and I'm pretty sure they'll be starting before the end of the year, so watch out for them as well. Now, and I'll just mention too, the survey results indicated that of respondents, only 20 to 30% felt that they understood the funding changes. And again, this is going back prior to the tools being released to us, but 20 to 30% of all respondents, that's actually not a large number of people feeling confident that they've got the information they need and they understand it. So again, that's why this session was put together the way it was. Okay, so the session aims to provide an understanding of the community support program at least, and the funding, detail the changes to the CSP funding and the rationale for these changes, support services in determining their eligibility for funding under the revised requirements, and discussing the process of change and transition. And we will also spend some time explaining the support available to ineligible services via the Education and Support Project. So what will be available to you down the track. This is the guide that you will leave with today. It has detailed information on the funding changes. It has it's summarised. The survey results are summarised for you, and there's a guide to assist you in determining eligibility. And again, that could be, I think my guide's gone, that could be quite helpful again when you're, speaking with your stakeholders and sharing information with them. Okay, so the community support program, the actual purpose was created to assist the establishment of childcare services in disadvantaged regional and remote communities where they were otherwise unviable or there had been clear market failure. So that was the intent of the project, okay, and remains the intent of the project. Okay, so the changes from April 2014, new family daycare services commenced assessment under the revised eligibility criteria. Okay, so all new services coming on board earlier this year and continuing are now being assessed under this criteria that you've been given. An annual cap of $250,000 on CSP operational support payments will be introduced for any family daycare services that are eligible for them. It's important to note that approved family daycare services will still administer childcare benefit and the childcare rebate on behalf of families. Now there has been some confusion about that, and I know some of the peak bodies around the countryside have been receiving calls from quite anxious service staff saying, does this change affect that? Okay, so we just need to clarify, no, they are separate things, and the CCB and the rebate are not affected by the changes to the criteria in the operational funding. Family daycare services that primarily operate within disadvantaged regional and remote communities may still be eligible to receive funding. Because that was another thing, there was some talk earlier on about funding being cut across the board. Well, it's not the case. There will be less services, as you know, that will be eligible, but there will be some that are still eligible to be supported with this funding. Services were informed to ensure a 12-month transition period. So in other words, you did have the original information June would it have been when you were first told about the changes? Yeah, around that time, okay. And looking at a transition period of 12 months to the 1st of July next year. So, the rationale. The number of family daycare services in metropolitan areas receiving CSP funding has increased by 74% since 2011. So that's a huge increase in a fairly short period of time. The eligibility criteria for family daycare will be brought into line with other service types, such as long day care and out-of-school hours care. So, in other words, we have been working on different criteria for quite a time now. And I was saying to some of the groups that I was working with last year, my background in children's services is not only family daycare, and years ago I managed a long daycare centre when we lost operational funding, and I remember it extremely well, and I remember a great lot about it actually, how we felt at the time, and the paddling fast to make things work, I suppose, continue to work. And at that time, I was trying to remember, because it was a few years ago, I think it was like 1/5 of my budget that I lost very, very quickly. So, yeah, so I do remember, and I do empathise. Changes are aimed at ensuring the CSP remains sustainable long term and delivers funding to those who the program is designed to help. So this is the department's rationale for change. As such, this is why it's happening. Now I'm just going to swap glasses and just read you a little bit more information, statistical I suppose, information. In 2012 to 2013, 429 family daycare services received operational support funding, the majority in New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland, because they are the states with the larger number of service units and educators. The Australian National Audit Office reviewed the CSP in 2012 and found 71% of the CSP expenditure in 2011 went to family daycare services, despite family daycare services having only 10% of all children in formal care and education. So there was 10% of children in family daycare, but we were receiving 71% of the budget. Okay, so the other thing was, because I know we had growths of services and all the rest of it, but what was happening, the number of children of such and families moving into family daycare or requiring family daycare, there wasn't that, there was a disparity as such with the percentage of growth there to growth actually in dollars spent to support services. So in 2012 this had grown to 80%. Okay, so it was just increasing, and again this is part of the rationale for change. This has seen the program budget exceeded by $200 million in 3 years. The review also found the objective of the program was to support early childhood and education and care services in disadvantaged regional and remote areas, but the majority of funding has been going to family daycare services in major cities. In order for the program to remain viable and true to its original intent, change was necessary, which brought about equality in all forms of funding for all early childhood education and care services. So in other words, across the board, not just family daycare. Okay, the eligibility criteria. A service must be in a regional or remote area or within a city location that's also highly socio-economically disadvantaged. The service must be the sole family daycare provider in this area, and the service must show evidence that there is an unmet demand for education and care in the area. So that simply spells out the criteria for eligibility. Being aware too, and you probably already are if you've looked at these documents, your SA3 areas, your major cities, there's four levels of criteria as such that is appropriate to you, and there's 3 for regional and remote areas. Okay, they haven't got the fourth area that they have to cover within the criteria. Okay, assessing eligibility. The Department of Education has developed a series of documents to assist services. There's a self-assessment tool checklist and reference tables. Has everybody accessed them through the department's website? Everybody has, okay. And I'm pretty sure soon or at some stage there is the website where you can access them. So if it doesn't come up, come and see me and I'll make sure you know about it, okay? Because these are the documents you need to follow. The areas, the eligibility, everything has already been decided with the criteria that we're working with, okay? So it is important that you have the documents. And the other thing, and look, it says, please note that your self-assessment is an indicator of your family daycare services possible eligibility, because, and you would be aware what the department has put out, that things can change, all right? So perhaps keep an eye on those lists as well in case there is change. And I dare say, actually, where's Julia? That might be something for us to keep in mind as well. If we're aware of change, perhaps that would be a good thing for us to be letting you know by the website if you send us, you know, join in the email group, okay? All right, so within the guide, this is how the steps as such look as you move through, working through the eligibility criteria. And I haven't got one in front of me, but yeah, so that's how it looks. The 4 steps for major services, or your major cities at least, your SA3s, and the SA2s have the 3 steps to move through. Okay, so again, useful when you're working with your stakeholders so that you can work through the steps and show them how simply it is being done. So what I'm going to do, this is the self-assessment here. So we'll actually kind of work through that now. Is your service and its educators in a major city? If it's yes, you continue on to the second question. If it's no, you go back to page 6, because if you're not a major city, that means you're regional and remote. So the first thing you have to do is ascertain what your statistical area is. Okay, the second step, the Department of Education has determined your services location. Fantastic, you know that. Are you the sole provider of family daycare in your services location, which is a criteria. If it's yes, you're moving on to the next level of criteria. If it's no, then that's where you're out, I suppose. You are not eligible. Okay, we're out. Are you operating in an area of high socio-economic disadvantage? If there are services that get to that, that is then the next level of criteria that they have to meet, okay? And that again is quite specific.
Excuse me, can I just ask a silly question? When you're asking where we are and where we're operating, is that our central office or where we're servicing? Because our office could be in a particular area, but we're servicing, you know.
Yes. What they're basing it on is 51%, or the majority of educators in the area, but also taking into consideration the location of the coordination unit, the service unit, as a determinator as well. Because sometimes educators can be spread around, you know, a larger area, or, you know, when we're talking country areas, quite remotely, you know, have a couple here and there in different towns and that. So the department look at the majority as such, but also, if need be, where the coordination unit is. Now, if you go to our project website, on there you can actually link into the different documents, and one of the documents actually gives you more, and you may have already done it, gives you more information about the areas, how they're ascertained as such, the disadvantaged part of it, how that information has been brought together or collected, that type of thing. So there is more information available to you. If people do, and it'll come up later, but if services do, if management teams and that feel they need to query how the information has been brought together and their service has been allocated an area, that's a department question or discussion that you need to have. all right, if you want to query the boundaries as such that your service is working within. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do, so this is the self-assessment tool, and again, this is the one that the department have put out for you to use. Quite simply done. Just keep in mind it's not the application. All right, the application, when it comes to it next April, will be much more detailed than this, I would think, if you're going through the whole process. Is your service a major city service or a regional or remote service? The service classification is either major city, okay, which you go to question 2, regional or remote, you go to question 5. Okay, now how you're gathering that information is the department has put out alphabetically a list of all services. Okay, so what you do is you're going through, finding your service on the list, and in the second column, I'll show you here. Oh no, sorry, that should be the website. Okay, where you get these documents from. Sorry.
Could you leave that up for a while?
Yes, certainly. So what you'll be doing, search alphabetically for your service's name. Listed beside it is the classified area. Okay, so this is that's that document that you'll be first going to. And as it says, any disputes or questions on your classification can be sought from the Family Daycare education.gov. Sending an email off there and alerting them to it, or as I said, having that discussion with them. Got what you need?
No.
It will be in the brochure too. Don't forget, in the brochure you're getting, it will have this information as well. Okay. So what is my area classification? Family daycare approved service. Like I said, example 1 would be, and example 2 alphabetically done. In the second column it will tell you major city or if you're regional and remote. So that's the first question that you need to answer. Major city services. Now, where is your major city service located? Be aware there can be a little confusion apparently over the fact that it does ask you here for your address, okay, which sometimes your address, your service coordination unit address, and that will be different to the area down here. So just be aware when you're talking your SA3, your statistical area, make sure you get it off the proper document. Okay, so which statistical area is my service in? Services in major cities will be an SA3 location. Services in a regional or remote will be an SA2. Geocoded. I learnt a new word. What statistical area is my service located in? Again, you're going to that first document, so you've got your alphabetical listings, major city or regional and remote, and then the actual service location. So that's the information that you're using to put in that, to answer that question there. Okay. Continuing on, question 3 of the self-assessment tool. Is your major city service the sole family daycare provider in your location? Okay, you're going to have to go to the next set of documents then. They also gave us listings of SA2s and SA3s, which I'll grab the SA3s. Okay, yes, there's only one family daycare service in my SA3 area. You would go to the next question 4, next level of criteria. No, there's more than one family daycare service in the SA3. If your service is not the sole family daycare provider in the SA3, then it's likely that your service will be ineligible for operational support funding from the 1st of July, based on the current location of your educators and educators from the service. Okay, so are we the sole provider? The department has provided a consolidated list of all locations in Australia where approved family daycare services are located. If you are at SA3 location, you refer to the SA3 listing. Okay, so that one there. The list will specify how many services are located in your SA3 area. So again, you're looking up your area this time, so it's not alphabetically, it's not your service name, it's your area rate listing, number of family daycare services, so both of those examples there, you just have one, they're sole providers in those areas. Okay, the fourth question, is your major city service providing care in an area of socio-economic disadvantage? So there's more information on the department's website there, because there have been questions come up about how is that actually determined. What are the benchmarks as such used for socio-economically disadvantaged? Okay, so you may want more information by going to that website. So if it's no, if your major city service is not located in an area of socio-economic disadvantage, then it's likely that your service will be ineligible for operational support funding from July the 1st. Okay. Again, that has already been mapped out as such. So again, on the SA3 listing, to be eligible for funding, you are required to be the sole provider in a socio-economically disadvantaged area. So you have your service location, yes, you're the sole provider, or no, you may not be, there's more than one in that area. And then that third column is the area socio-economically disadvantaged, and again the department's worked it out with yes or a no. Okay. For rural and remote services, as you can see, that they only have the 3 questions. Okay, in rural and remote, they don't have to go to the socially economically disadvantaged. Okay, they only have the 3 lots of criteria to meet. Okay. So, and they're looking at their SA2s and just going through the same process that you are. I'm taking it that everybody here is from a city service. Yes? Haven't got any SA2s? No. The next stage, you will be required to demonstrate that there's an unmet demand to the Department of Education in your service. The only family daycare provider in a regional remote location, or the only provider in a city location that is also highly socio-economically disadvantaged. So in other words, both SA2 and SA3s that feel they may be eligible also have to show that there is an unmet demand for care in that area. And how will that be determined? First off, they're suggesting that you list all other education and care services in your area. Okay, so you can go onto the My Child or the ASIPA website, and they do have, of course, listings of all other services, and I think you can seek them out by whether it's service name, areas or sector type as such. I think there's different ways you can gather that information together. Also, services that feel that they will be eligible and need to gather evidence from within, again, their area. And what you might be looking at there is waiting lists that you have for your service, or waiting lists for other services in your area. And when we're talking other services, we're talking long day care, out of school hours care, you know, any services that provide, you know, care and education for children. Demographic data would be the information usually that the council has, the councils of your area have, okay? So, and a lot of times they have records that are available to the public, and other times it might mean tapping into the right people within council and you know, collating that information. Also, documentation of local childcare shortages. There might have been newspaper articles, there might have been things on the television, might be organisations, agencies that your service supports and you haven't been able to place children, you know, that type of thing. I know in the discussions I've had with services over the last week, I've just encouraged them that if this is something that you'll be getting involved in, that you get quite creative with gathering the information, okay, and not look, you know, not put the blinkers on as such. Look really widely within the community to get that information to support your unmet demand. Okay, applying for funding. Eligible services will be able to apply for funding from April 2015. Services will need to complete a funding application available on the Department of Education website, and actually that same web address there is the one that will give you all the criteria information as well. Applications will be assessed with services involved of the outcome within an approximate 28-day time frame. So the government is suggesting that there will be a 28-day turnaround from applications going into decisions being made and outcomes being shared. I usually get a lot of scepticism when I put that out there. You're a nice bunch, aren't you?
No,
You're not going to be many applications going
Your mum believes.
I'll be able to do it.
Yes, all right. Oh, I should take Eddie with me to more sessions then, I think. Or at least the camera, Eddie. I'll set the camera up.
Just think
Like
they won't need a lot
everybody.
of staff to do the assessment.
Sorry?
They won't need many staff to do the assessment. That'll be fine.
Okay. Looking to the future, family daycare is a unique part of Australia's childcare system, and we must ensure that services can continue to provide the regulated home-based care that's so much in demand by families.
That's interesting.
Right, move on from that one. That went down well. Actually, Susan was at the airport with me this morning. I did hope that we were on the same flight because I thought we could have a little chat. You know, like she wouldn't have been able to go anywhere. Anyway. So what the next part of this information session is actually talking about change. And as you would know, we all approach change in the workplace very, very differently. Any change will bring with it varied reactions, emotions and impact on us all. Individuals will process change differently and transition at their own pace. And I know myself in thinking about change, I love change. I really do like change. I welcome it, and if things are settled for me too long, I go looking for change. But there's something I have recognised as well, that I like change when I have control of it. When I don't have control, I feel slightly differently about it. And I therefore understand that maybe that's how individuals and services are feeling at the moment, that here is another change that is beyond your control, yet it's going to be hugely impacting on you and the people you work with, the families, the children, the staff, and the organisations and that. So, you know, I understand, as I say, when it's out of our control, it's hard. It's very hard. So, reactions to change. Now, we're all probably aware of you know, the process of grief and different processes that are put forward. Well, it's been suggested that there is also processes or transitions as we go through change. And I don't know, you might kind of recognise where you're up to at the moment or where your service is up to. So I thought it is worthwhile for us to spend a little time here. Denial, numbness, refusal to discuss, business as usual approach. Now, even in the last few weeks, I've come across services that I would say are still in denial. Okay, still doing this, she'll be right, we'll be fine, we'll, you know, all good, we'll get our funding, no problems, how could they take it from us? That type of thing. Having said that, I think services are very much moving on from that as well, because there is more information available and there is more talk. And, you know, in the sector and really, you know, trying to nut things out. Resistance, emotional reactions, people feeling angry, anxious, frustrated, postponing or delaying processes, and that can kind of make sense, particularly if we're in a stage of, well, we're not quite sure where we're going to go, what we're going to do with all of this. Decreasing productivity and morale, and I know I have spoken with a couple of services. Somebody described it the other day and she did the hands with it. She said, our service is flat. Okay, that's how they're feeling at the moment. They're flat. So that morale, you know, hard to kind of keep people going in that, but recognising that there is an opportunity for moving on. Are you kind of, as we talk about this, or I talk about this, are you recognising maybe where you're feeling or how your service is or your team? Yes. Yeah, okay. It's been interesting, and I think even the department putting the tools out that have made it easier for us to you know, ascertain where we stand. as far as, you know, our services eligibility or ineligibility. As hard as it is, at least we've got, you know, you've got something to work with finally, some understanding of your position. Within, even over the last week, the different services I've been working with, I've seen the transition happening to exploration, which is fantastic that some services feel they're ready to that. So it's the reality of change and investigating options and possible solutions. And again, as a sector, I can only encourage that we are sharing information, that we are talking to each other, that we are supporting each other as well through these times. And even within the sessions I've done, some participants in the sessions have even put through really good ideas, shared good ideas about business or how they've thought about it or where they think they're up to or discussions they're having with their, you know, their teams and all the rest of it. So definitely in that exploration mode. And hopefully moving on then to commitment, and that's basically a real team. When you're talking commitment, that needs to be the team, and acceptance and a willingness to implement change and take ownership. So at some stage going, look, this is our reality, this is how we're going to move forward. Okay, change must be planned, managed and implemented just like any other task or project that you might take on. Now, remembering that there's a people side to change as well as a structural side. And I actually think that goes without saying in family daycare. I think family daycare people are very good people. You know, you are hands-on and you care about the families and the children that you work with. You care about your teams. You care about the service and the community that you're in. So I do think that goes without saying. Understand how you personally manage change and monitor your team as they transition as well. Effective communication and collaboration with all stakeholders is critical. This is really, really important. There is already talk out there, particularly, and God love those educators who get on different social media sites and all the rest of it, and there's a bit of scare stuff going on. Some of the peak bodies are receiving calls from educators who are contacting them because they're feeling they're not getting the information they need from their service coordination units, okay, and they are frightened. You know, they're getting calls saying, oh, my service is closing, what do I do, where do I go, what do I do with my families, that kind of thing. So the peak body teams are kind of encouraging them to go back and get as much information as they can from their coordination unit. Okay, so just being aware that you're sharing as much information as you can, you're giving them up to date. Let them know about the website that they can access as well. They can access and, you know, be updated with alerts and all the rest of it. And in some of the sessions I did last week, some of the participants were asking for information that they can use directly with their educators and families. Okay, so I'll be passing that on to the project team as possible things that they can work on, so that there's information, whether it be newsletters, you know, PowerPoint slides, whatever it might be, that you can actually use when you're having discussions with your stakeholders. And can I just ask, what kind of communication, what things are you doing already in relation to your educators and families to share information? What things have you started?
I'd just like to say, firstly, well, we've just done an introductory letter to our parents and educators. But as a scheme provider, we don't know what our future holds yet, so we can't share that with our educators. We can't say, yeah, no, be safe, everything's good, we're going to continue to operate, because we haven't determined that yet. So whilst we can tell them the processes and tell them the information that's available, we can't reassure them that we will still be existing. So
that's true, and I understand that, but even the fact that you're communicating something with them means if you're putting it out there that they can come back to you with it, rather than, like I said, them getting on and or asking those that may not be in the know, because you know how it happens, that fear, that level of anxiety starts to think. And the thing is, and then there'll be the build-up of trust that you're telling them as much as you know as soon as you know it, and them understanding that it is a process and that you're doing the best with the information you've got at the time, and basically more to come.
We're having a session soon with Just Educators, but we're not going to be able to tell them what they really want to hear, and that is what's happening with their fees, how much the levy's going up.
Yes.
We won't know that whilst we've got a 12-month lead-in. We don't know that information until April next year.
Yes.
And it will depend on how many educators you have.
Yes.
And they're what they want. They want the figures on how it's going to affect their income, and that's just not something you can give them
at the time. I know. And so, again, you know, that goes back to you might be feeling one way and they're feeling something else as well. And you know yourself, you're trying to give them as much information as you can with what you've got. But you're right, definites and specifics about how change will look will probably happen over time. And particularly if it means that the business model that you currently work with is going to look different. Or yes, if there's changes to fee structures and things like that.
The same sort of works with families as well. You want to inform them, but you don't want to scare them.
Scare them, that's true.
Because otherwise the whole system will just collapse if they think I've got to
totally agree.
move and find myself a
Yeah.
secure place.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that reassurance that you spoke of and everything, it's reassuring as much as you can with the information that you have. And the reassurance might be just that as long as they know you're doing the best you can, you're sharing the information you have, you're onto it, you know what I mean? And that it's not just, like I said, because some educators and families, you're right, who get frightened, who, you know, it's the flee business, you know, the fight or flee kind of thing. Do they flee? Do they go elsewhere? And that we don't want that for sure. So no, sharing as much as you can and as timely as you can. And like I said, the project will continue to do that as well. So do keep an eye on what information comes out. Open communication will build trust and reassurance in times of change. Ensuring communications relayed directly and in a timely manner. Communication should be inclusive, transparent, factual and respectful, and I'm sure you'll be working on that. Provide opportunities for everyone to discuss how they're feeling. So those meetings of getting together, the earlier ones, that might be what comes from it. At least everybody gets to say how they're feeling at this time. Listen, acknowledge and empathise, of course. Okay, so now back to the project as such and the support of the transition. The Education and Support Project will seek service input into what information and support is required. So again, if there's anything that you can think of that you want to let us know, Julia or myself know about today that we take back to the project team, or if you want to, you know, ask questions or send suggestions as such via the website, fantastic. Deliver professional development sessions nationally. And as I said, once these information sessions finish, it probably shouldn't be too long before the other workshop ones start, and they're going to be looking at business models and different ways of working with the staff, and they could be, look, I don't know, but I'm thinking they might be things that you want more of your staff to come to as well. Okay, so again, keep an eye out for them. Present a national webinar on business management strategy, so that will be developed, and I'm not sure when it will be available to you. And developing publications, there's two, Provider's Guide to Family Daycare and New World Family Daycare Guide. One of them is 40 pages, and I believe it's being worked on now. So again, as soon as they're available, they will be distributed in some shape or form. Also, there will be delivery of one-to-one support by phone and email for up to 100 services, and a possibility of one-to-one face support for up to 30 services. Now, I'm not sure what the criteria is for the 100 and for the 30. I really can't give you any more information on that, okay, how that will be decided. But of course, it will be services that are feeling that they need that bit extra. Provide quarterly webinars outlining the compliance requirements of family daycare services and develop resources to assist with continued compliance. Okay, so again, through the workshops and the documents that are delivered to you or offered to you. And there are the contact details, and again, they will be on those guides that go out to you. And And yes, we're happy to hear from you. And as I said, if it's questions we can't answer, then we might be directing you back to the education department. Okay. Are there any more questions? Yes.
So regarding the L1s and all the categories and the SA3 and SA2, if we don't fall in any of those categories, we shouldn't apply for it.
No, if you've gone through the self-assessment,
Yeah, I have.
yes, so that will help you to assist, yes, whether you're eligible or ineligible.
So if we're not eligible, then we shouldn't apply for it.
You don't apply. Having said that, remember the applications are April next year, and as the department have said themselves, things could change within that information.
When I call the number, this is what they told me.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
to apply for it.
Not to apply, yes.
But we can keep checking the
You
criteria.
keep checking, you do, yeah. There will be
all the
some
other
movement,
providers.
I would think, within the sector. Yes, sorry, was there a
That's
question?
okay, yes. I was just thinking, I may be wrong, but if you're not eligible, like Sue was saying, because you're not servicing anyone in remote areas and that, from my understanding, isn't it possible that we still may be eligible if we can determine or we can give evidence of high demand for my service in this area?
No, you have to meet that unmet demand is kind of after you've ticked all the other boxes. So yes, so you have to be in, just say your SA3, and the
So one
only
of those boxes
provider.
is you can be in a remote area, or there's extreme demand in your
No,
area.
no.
Still
No.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
So no.
Any more questions? Yes.
Just when you were talking about the professional development sessions,
Yes.
is there any information that we could hear about today about the business management strategies, or is that still being developed?
Yeah, it's still being developed, and like I said, what they've done is access people with expertise in that area. Okay, so which will be great. Okay, because it will be supportive information for you to look at how things are now for you, and more broadly possibilities, I suppose.
And did you
The
say
other-
that timeline's the end of the year that we'll get that, or?
I'm really not sure for that one. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm aware that they're working to get the workshops out before the end of the year, and that will, yes, I would think, be including it, be part of it as well. But it's not the only thing. There is more to
And
come.
they are working on it at the moment. There's Trina and Vicky and Anita that are working, that are within the project team, and they're working on those at the moment.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm worried about is the sand slipping through the hourglass.
Oh yes.
And we're talking about a 12-month transition period.
It's 10
Yes.
months
We're
now.
already almost
Yes, we're
and
months
then
into it.
we're talking about maybe having some information around business management strategies by the end of the year.
Yes.
And then, then we're looking at planning and then implementation. We're going to be well into that next year before we
well,
know the place to be.
And we know
And
what
local-
December's like alone, don't we?
And local
Right,
government
budgeting.
budgets are due by December. so-
Yeah. Yeah, oh, so
You're
that's a good point as
Yeah.
well. And see, that's the type of thing. See, that doesn't hurt sending off an email to the project, to reminding them of things like that. You know, for when they're putting a calendar together.
That was brought up in the focus group, so that they're
Oh,
already aware
beautiful.
of that.
All right. And I didn't mention the focus groups. There have been 4 focus groups that have met. They've had 8, been working on a premise of 8 participants each. 2 groups have met in New South Wales and in Victoria, and 1 in Queensland as well, representing the sector broadly, I suppose, and working with a consultant who has asked a variety of questions to gather quite a bit of information. And he is working on collating that information and also seeing how that feedback as such from those representatives of the sector can also influence, the project and what's to come for you in the way of what you need and that. And I'll just mention back to what you said, and only because I just want to really stress to you that the project team are working as hard as they can and as quick as they can. Now, I started travelling last Monday to deliver these sessions. The Thursday before, I still did not have anything. I didn't have a PowerPoint. So, I mean, it was being worked on and all the rest of it. I knew that and I was comfortable with that. Everybody was doing the best they could. So I actually took a trip to Sydney from Albury just so I could just touch base and see what was available and get the information that was. The reason being that this information and the guide were put together, the department has to tick off everything as well. So they do things in their time as well. So it was only Thursday that they gave the tick that yes, we could go ahead with this in the format it is. So that, I'm just putting that out there to show you that as soon as the information comes in and, like I said, is put together in a way that's going to support you, it will be out to you. Okay. Do our very best with that.
Can I just say
yes,
that this is a reason to extend the transition period. We won't be able to move to exploration and be looking at the new models until early next year, and then we're left with, you know, probably a 3 or 4 month period.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about a year's transition. We're talking about getting some information, getting the field prepared, and then having information to move forward, which we want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm a council service too, and we're preparing already the budget for 15-16. So we're working with business analysts, trying to come up with, well, how are we going to manage this?
How could it look?
And that's, you know, we're working without information or ideas.
Yeah. And look, it has come up, and I'll just mention here, because in some of the sessions I've done previously, people have talked about lobbying and that. You know, is it worth lobbying? Is it worth continuing, you know, to push the government for you know, longer transition periods, whatever it might be. My advice, and again, just my own thoughts on that, is if you're going to lobby, you know, use your time and energy to lobby, make sure it goes to the right places. The project, that's not what it was set up for, and we won't be able to lobby as such. Having said that, we take your information, we'll support you in any way we can with the transition and the change, and we will be asking questions ourselves to get information for you. But if you're aware of other lobbying that's going on, or ways, or specific things like that, you know, fair enough. Can the transition be over a longer period of time? We're accepting change has to happen. Can we have more time for the change? And for those very reasons, you know, council budgets, whatever they might be. Well, yes, definitely find an avenue for that if there's specifics that you need to, you know, that you want to put forward. Yep.
Can I just mention, so I'm Naomi Daycare, New South Wales President, and we actually, the timeline is very timely in relation to this. They're already having a discussion with the BECS at the moment, so people who in the survey had indicated, and correct me if I'm wrong, but people in the survey who had indicated they have good business models, they're the people the BECS are working with currently, and I know they're working with people because we've had a regional recently. The same as people have been contacted from the Union of New South Wales around different things as well. So that's all in place. I've seen the timeline for the project. It is timely, it is towards the end of the year. Ideally, yes, we'd love to say we can have an extension, and certainly we will be asking for that. Family Daycare Australia are also working on a project that we've co-branded with, so that the rallying and that kind of stuff perhaps can go through with a partnership with Family Daycare Australia. So they're things we need to look at. So there are things going in place. I have seen the timelines. I was actually the representative for the nation when the focus group got together with the consultants. So they had, you know, Western Australia, Queensland, all of the states there representing, and so they're well and truly aware. I'm a council-based service, but I had to represent community, new providers, as well as council, so the voices were heard. So certainly all that information is taken on. So I can only support what you're saying, and the timelines are really fine. So we have, well, Anita and her team, and the team in the Family Daycare New South Wales have worked really hard, as well as with Queensland, as well as some consulting Family Daycare Australia. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's nice to have it from somebody else who's on the ground floor, seeing what's, you know, happening as well.